Hi, I'm Sian Benz and welcome to The Naked Word, a show for the everyday woman where our story is your story. Anxiety is now the #1 mental health disorder in Australia, with 1 in 6 Australians affected. As of August of 2022, 3.3 million Australians reported feeling anxiety, whether at home or in the workplace. Today we share some of those stories. My co-hosts are bravely offering up their experiences of anxiety, and for one of them, what it's like living with someone who has anxiety. As the viewer, I'm going to ask you to be kind. Anybody who shares their mental health struggle in a public forum, and especially to help other people, can only be considered as incredible and should be treated as such. Any information that we offer today should not replace any professional medical help. Thanks for joining me, Deanna, Natalie, and Soraya. I have a little bit of anxiety talking about anxiety.
Yeah, totally.
Same.
Cue nervous laughter.
Yeah.
Do you guys feel the same way?
Absolutely.
100%.
Completely.
Yeah.
I think it has to do with the stigma of talking about this stuff openly.
Yeah. And how you'll be perceived and how it'll be received. In the preparation of this episode, see, I'm falling over my words. It's the anxiety.
Yeah.
I do experience anxiety, so I'm just going to say it out in the open. I do experience anxiety. And for me, what it looks like physically is my body starts to tremble, and then my jaw starts to shake, and then I start stumbling over my words. So in the preparation of this episode, here's an example. I got a phone call from our producer on the show, and she's going to hate that I mentioned her. But she called me and she said something to me on the phone. And immediately, I know the feeling. Everybody knows the feeling that they get when they start feeling anxious. So I got the feeling in the pit of my stomach. And like, I'm aware enough of myself to know when that feeling's there, and I'm confident enough, and I felt safe with her to be able to say, oh my goodness, that's making me feel anxious. I'm starting to feel anxious. And she chuckled a little bit on the other side of the phone. She thought it was funny. And I did say it in jest, so it's not a reflection of her. And what my body does with that anxiety that I feel is want to do things. I want to do things. So I was like, oh, I feel really anxious that you said that. And I was standing in my kitchen. So the next thing I know, I'm grabbing an antibacterial wipe and I start wiping down my kitchen counters. But I'm still on the phone. And I'm like, yeah. And that's what my anxiety looks like. I start stress cleaning.
Yeah.
Does anybody else do that?
Yeah.
I don't stress clean as such, but I have to do stuff.
Yeah.
I definitely feel an urge to get busy doing things. And it feels like it's almost a way of physically getting the feeling out.
Yeah.
So that it's not stuck inside me. It feels like this build up and build up and build up of energy and crackling kind of sensations in my body, and I just want it out of me.
Yes.
So movement is really, really helpful for me when that happens. But it usually just turns into being busy. It's not functional. It doesn't actually serve any real purpose.
Yeah. So do you get busier at work?
I get busier everywhere. Everywhere.
It's across the board.
Like I start like trying to also get everybody else into my busyness as well. So like if there's other people at home with me, I'll start like telling the kids, go do this, go do that. And I'll tell my partner, we need to get this sorted. And I sort of start dragging everyone into my anxious process and my anxious activity, which is not great for the people around me.
Yeah, because how do they normally behave when you're doing that?
I don't know. Sometimes they come along with me. Sometimes they just look at me like, oh, Mum's doing a weird thing again, and they go off and do their own thing. And sometimes my partner will come and say to me, hey, you're a little bit up.
Yes.
Right? You're a little bit up, a little bit frantic.
Yes.
Do you need some time? Do you need to just go and sit quietly, read a book, like go for a walk? What do you need to do to get this frantic energy out of you? Because it's really affecting everybody else.
Yeah,
my voice gets higher pitched, I start getting louder, and I just chase things. And that's hard for everybody else to deal with.
Do you know what was the other thing that I noticed as well? When I'm anxious or I'm experiencing anxiety, I'm not hungry. I can't eat.
Me too, that's me.
I can't eat.
For days.
Yes.
Not interested.
And then, of course, everybody else goes, oh, you you look like you've lost weight. That makes me even more anxious. You know, it's just this cycle, this endless loop that I end up in until obviously I break it. What does anxiety look like for you? Where does it come from for you, first of all?
Well, first of all, I had anxiety all the way through high school. And Mum was amazing. My mum was one of these people that said, darling, why don't we solve the problem by why don't you go to school early so you're the first one there? Because I used to have anxiety about getting there late and getting there last and then joining a group of girlfriends. And you know, my girlfriends would probably be watching this now going, are you kidding me? You were bright and big and sparkly. Okay. But I was bright and big and sparkly to cover up the anxiety that I felt. Nowadays, I don't feel that anymore. I feel very confident in myself, but where I do feel anxiety is fear of the future related to money. And as you know, as you girls have known and you've been super supportive, I've had a huge life shift, which meant a lot less money. And I never realised that that transition would equate to waking up in the morning and feeling really anxious and feeling nauseous.
That's a really valuable point, because often when I feel anxious, I wake up with it.
Yes.
I just wake up with it. I wake up, I'm like this.
Yeah.
And I feel wired.
Yes.
And I'm not even out of bed yet.
Yeah, and hence why I go into nature to calibrate, just to normalise my feelings and to feel that peace.
Yeah, nature gives you that. But
For me,
but
yes.
when you're feeling that lack of safety, because obviously you've changed careers now, so you've taken a leap of faith on yourself, which you're really brave in doing, and I commend you for that. Trying something new. But of course, when you try anything new, there's a building phase you have to go through.
Yeah.
So you're in that, and there's all this uncertainty right now with, are you going to
I
be
feel like
okay?
I'm playing Tetris with my life. I feel like I'm trying to fit all these pieces into the puzzle.
Yeah.
But more so the anxiety comes from at the age of 48, and I'm 48 in December, it's like I've got 20 years of work left, and will I have enough to get me to the end of my lifetime?
Yeah.
And I've never felt like that. It's just arrived. And so there's this franticness in that. And so I've been dealing with that. I've got beautiful supportive friends around me, the three of you included. I don't know what I would have done without you girls, but but yeah, it's been a really tough time.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think a lot of people feel that kind of anxiety around money. I know I have at various points in my life felt a lot of anxiety around money, and it definitely shows up as a wake up in the morning with how is my day going to go, what's going to happen next. And that's awful, waking up and immediately feeling like you're in a panic state.
Yes.
That's not cool. You know, it's like I've been dreaming all night about awful things happening to me, and I wake up first thing in the morning and life is already a disaster before I can even do anything with it. And that happens a lot around money for me.
Yes.
So I really, really relate and really feel your pain, sweetheart.
For me, it's the wondering, am I going to be okay? Or are we going to be okay? So I think about my family. Are we going to be okay? It doesn't matter what's happening. It could be work-related, money-related. There's maybe some family drama. Are we going to be okay? And then I start running on the anxious feeling of that. A word that's popped up for all of us is panic. That's what I'm noticing. Soraya, you don't so much struggle with anxiety yourself, but you live with two people who have quite high intensity anxiety.
Yeah, so my experience is living with two people that have quite anxious tendencies. It's been difficult to navigate as well, because my first response is to either, fix, or I want to try and make them okay, or calm them down, or really make it about what they're doing. And then my coach comes in. And I'm like, okay, so what
because
are you
you're
feeling?
a coach.
And, try and solve it or fix the problem or fix how they're feeling or try and placate whatever it is they're feeling. So the first thing that I've learnt, because that has not worked, it's one of the worst things you can do, especially when it's your family. And so what I've learnt is how to manage the anxious tendencies around me and the anxiousness around me is to maintain my own personal feelings around being.
So what happens? So when you, let's say, when you walk into as a room or a space, and you're one of the people you live with is there, and
Yeah.
they're feeling really, really anxious.
Yeah.
Are you saying you get caught up in it with them?
Absolutely. So
This
what
is fascinating
Yeah.
for us, by the way.
So-
It gives an insight to the other side.
Absolutely. So what happens is I can feel what the other person's feeling. I can, go in and I can feel that anxiousness, and I start to feel a little bit anxious.
Yeah.
And then that affects how I feel. What I've learnt though is to manage how I'm feeling first instead of trying to manage them. The second thing is living with two people that have quite high anxiety levels is instead of trying to fix or solve the problem or manage them, first it's manage myself and then actually hearing what it is they have to say and understanding, being compassionate and acknowledging any fears or any worries that come up instead of trying to make it that's not true or that's not happening or try to diminish what it is that they're feeling.
Yes.
Because that can make them feel really misunderstood. Then it makes them feel distant and it makes them feel isolated and it makes them feel like they're alone.
Yeah.
So acknowledging how that person feels, being calm, just understanding.
I will agree with that, because often when I've spoken to other people about my anxiety and the way I feel, the first thing they want to do is fix it.
Yeah.
Which makes me feel like what I'm saying about the way that I feel is it should be something I should just get over, and so now there's something wrong with me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I should just get over it, which is essentially how I interpret what they're saying.
Yeah.
And you don't just get over anxiety.
No.
You
No.
know, I've always learned that anxiety was fear of the future and depression was guilt from the past.
Right.
And I always knew the difference between the two. And when I do go into anxiety and I know it's about the future, I say, what small step could I take today to look at this and work towards not feeling so anxious? What's the core of the problem?
Yeah. Yeah. And that there's nothing wrong with you. I know
Right.
it's called a disorder. I really didn't like that term, and I struggled with
Yeah.
saying it at the opening of the episode. I really struggled with it.
I
I'll
want
be
to make
honest.
something really clear as well, is that it's not as clear cut as it sounds in going, just manage yourself. It's been a journey for me. It's not easy to live with, really anxious sort of, feelings and the heightened state of anxiety around you. That's been a journey for me. And the one thing that I've realised is that if I don't look after myself, if I don't manage how I'm feeling, I can get caught up in that.
And you can't support the other
And then
person.
then I'm useless. Then I can't support them or I can't do anything for them because I myself then have jumped in
Yes.
to their anxious feeling. And then
Yes.
I'm anxious with them and we're all
Yes.
anxious and the house is anxious and everything's just up there like Deanna was saying. It's just, then there's just franticness.
Yes.
So I've had to learn what the best way is for me to self-manage and self-care for me to be around quite anxious people.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think there's a difference between nervousness and anxiousness.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
I say to my son, oh, you're feeling nervous about this today. That means you really want it. You really want to succeed in this. That's a good feeling, Taj. That feeling drives you towards being successful in something. And I don't often use the word anxiousness or anxiety with him because I don't want him attaching himself to that if it's not really that.
Because of the negative connotation attached to it.
Yes, I feel kind of a little bit of shame around that word.
Yeah.
But with my anxiety of late, it's been debilitating because it's every morning, it's
Yeah.
constant.
Yes.
So I know it's anxiety. It's not just I'm nervous about the future.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because nervousness goes away and comes back.
Yes.
Goes away and comes back. So I found that differentiating between the two with my son has taught him valuable lessons.
Yes. And actually, Deanna mentioned that as well in prep. In our preparation for the episode, she said, I wouldn't class. Sorry, you say it. I'll butcher it. You say it.
Well, all I was saying is I think we've got to be careful around framing anxiety as like this full tilt medical condition. And
Yeah.
I know that it is,
Yes.
right? I know that there is a form of anxiety that is a medical thing, that is about chemical imbalance and all of that kind of thing, right? And then also there's the other types of anxiety that we feel and the other ways that we experience anxiety that is circumstantial and a result of an environment that we're in. And those things are different.
Yeah.
It's really important that we acknowledge that those things are different. I mean, I recently had an experience with anxiety that was chemically induced, right?
Yeah.
So I've just gone through menopause, right? And in the lead up to that all happening and me getting to that menopausal point, I experienced a lot of anxiety, and it turns out it was because of an estrogen imbalance.
Hormones.
Hormones.
It's always the bloody hormones.
Well, not always, but a lot of the time it's the bloody hormones,
Yeah.
right? And in
Yeah.
this case, it was, right? But I've also experienced feeling anxious about money, and that had nothing to do with my hormones. That
Yeah.
was about money and worry about the future.
Yes.
But with the hormone-driven anxiety, all I needed to do was regulate those
Yes.
hormones. And so I wear a patch on my hip now that puts estrogen, bioidentical estrogen it's called, which means it matches
Yeah.
the estrogen that naturally occurs in my body. Since I started using that patch a few months ago, all of that like hormonally driven anxiousness gone.
Amazing.
And it went like that.
Yeah.
It went really, really quickly.
So you wouldn't say I've got anxiety
No.
in the same way that I would say I actually do have anxiety and I
Yeah.
experience it every single day.
Yeah.
You would say I get anxious.
Yes. Yes,
I just
that's
get
exactly
anxious.
what I would say.
Yeah. So when you do feel anxious, have you found any strategies that work for you to
Yes.
break out of it?
This is going to sound super woo-woo, right?
Yeah.
But like being grateful has helped me enormously. I even feel a bit silly saying that, but it's actually a practice, like it's a process. So if I wake up and I've got that anxious feeling and I'm in panic as soon as I wake up, I deliberately choose to stay in bed for a few minutes longer and I just think about the things that I'm grateful for,
Yeah.
right? And it could just be this bed is really comfortable right now. And I think really what it does is get me out of like thinking and being stuck in those swirly thoughts that happen in my head.
Yes.
And it puts me back into now, into my
Yes.
life as it currently is, gets me out of that anxious thinking about the future and puts me in here where I am right now in my comfy bed with my doona all smushed around me, my lovely man next to me, my
Yeah.
kids in their beds,
Yeah.
you know, like actually I'm okay.
Yeah.
I am okay.
I am
right?
okay.
I am okay.
Like I can feel that even as you say it.
So, you know, yeah, woo-woo gratitude, ooh, right? But it just gives me access to feeling connected to what I've actually got right now and that everything is okay.
Yeah.
What works for you, Nat?
Nature.
Yeah.
Every time. So anytime I feel anxious, all I do is bathers on, keys in hand, straight to the beach.
Yes.
And as soon as I get in the water, I feel completely calm. There's something about being in the ocean that actually stops thoughts from the past and thoughts into the future. I've never ever been able to really explain this to anybody, but as soon as I get in the ocean, I'm in the moment. And it's the same as you,
Yeah,
Dee.
it's
It's about
exactly the
getting into
same.
the moment because I believe that anxiety and depression is past and future. So when I'm in the ocean, I feel fantastic. And also, alternatively, I love going into the bush and walking, but it's a slower process.
Yes.
The ocean's my happy
So
place.
you've just found like nature really helps you.
Yeah, 100%.
I would describe myself as having high functioning anxiety. You know, anybody who knows me knows I'm extremely ambitious and I'm productive and I'm efficient and I'm direct and straightforward. But part of that anxiety that lives inside of that, being efficient stuff, means that the way that I personally treat my anxiety is always changing. So what worked for me yesterday to help calm me ain't gonna work for me today. I have to have a big fishbowl with suggestions in it, so that I can draw on those things to help me. So in that fishbowl of suggestions to help my anxiety, I meditate. I don't like it, but it works. I find I struggle, I procrastinate to get into the meditation practice, but now I add music, so it's less boring because I always want to be busy. See? So I meditate. I swim. That's another thing. Not the ocean so much. I'm afraid of sharks. That gives me anxiety. But I'll swim in a swimming pool. I'll just go down the pools and I'll have a swim.
Yeah.
And just that wetting of my head thing and trying to breathe and coordinate my arms and all of that, I'm in the moment.
Yeah.
I'm in the moment. Walking on the beach. That's another thing that helps. So that's in the bowl. Another thing that has helped me immensely is talking to my friends. Connecting with other people, sharing words, talking about the way that I feel. And then another thing, and this is probably the biggest out of everything, is helping other people. There is something in helping other people that makes me feel grateful for what I do have when you see the struggles of what someone else is going through. It's really helped me. From a support perspective, Soraya, if somebody's watching this who's trying to support a family member or a friend, what advice would you give them?
I think for me, the number one thing I had to learn was it's okay if they're not okay.
Wow.
That for me was trying to think that something was wrong or trying to fix the problem, or always thinking that behind that sat, you're not okay. So I'm going to try and fix it, or I'm going to try and manage you or keep you calm or do all these things. So it was pointy. It felt like a bit pointy. So the one thing I learned was it's okay if you're anxious. It's okay. I can maintain my own calmness.
Yeah.
And just be there for them and to
I love
understand
that.
them and have compassion for
I
them.
love that. And as you said it, we all took a breath.
Oh, it was
we all just
amazing.
felt that it's okay to not be okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your contributions. As difficult as this conversation was, I love that we had it. Love that we had it. And to the viewer, thank you so much for watching and for listening to our experiences. We'll see you next time on The Naked Web.